Hello all, welcome back to our lab series on GCP Compute Engine. In this lab, we'll focus on advanced concepts in GCP Compute Engine, such as performing canary deployments, testing with preemptible VM instances, and rolling updates. This lab is a continuation of lab 2, so I would suggest to complete the lab 2 before starting this lab. In lab 2, we set up an auto-scalable IMDb sentiment analysis service with a managed instance group. In this lab, we'll update the sentiment analysis service to include the prediction confidence percentage and then perform a canary deployment of these updates and test with a pytest on a preemptible VM instance and then roll out these updates to all the instances. In the first step, we create a new custom image with our updated source code. For that, we'll navigate to Compute Engine service on GCP. Here we can see that there are two VM instances running. In that, the first one is part of our managed instance group, and the second instance is the instance that we use to build our custom image previous lab. We'll first start this VM instance. And later we'll be updating the source code on this VM instance, and we will be creating a new custom image with our updated source code on this instance. Our VM instance is getting started. We can see that the VM instance is started. Let us SSH into this VM instance. Now we are logged in into the VM instance. Let us navigate into the we have navigated into our home folder of the service. Now let us update the service. For that, we'll copy the source code from our lab manual. In the previous service, we have included a small change in the predict API to also include the confidence along with the prediction. We'll just copy this section of the code and we'll update it in the previous source code. Our source code has been updated. There is a permission issue, so let us quit now and use sudo to open the source code, and now we update it. Similarly, by removing the return statement and pasting the confidence calculation, percentage calculation, we write these changes to the file. Post this, we'll be creating a custom VM image of our updated source code. For that, let us stop the instance and navigate to the images section. We'll be creating a new image. We'll name it as IMDb sentiment analysis image v2, and the source disk could be the IMDb sentiment analysis VM restored. That would be all. Let us create the new custom VM image. Our VM image is getting created. Let us look into the next steps. We have created the new custom image. In the next step, we'll be creating a new instance template where the boot disk would be our new image, which is IMDb sentiment analysis image v2. We can see that our VM image has been created. Let us create a new instance template now. This is our previous instance template with the image IMDb sentiment analysis image. Now we create a new instance template. Let us copy the instance name, instance template name. Select the instance type as E2 micro. We'll also be selecting the network here. We'll be deleting the default network and we'll be adding our IMDb sentiment analysis VPC in the subnet, IMDb sentiment analysis VPC subnet. We'll also be including the startup script, which we can copy from here. We then create the instance template. We can see that our instance template is created. We have missed selecting the VM image. So let us see if we can update it. We wouldn't be able to update the boot disk. So let us delete this and create a one. We'll be creating the instance name as IMDb. Sentiment analysis template v2. Let us carefully select the configuration here with shared core and E2 micro. We'll be changing the boot disk here to our custom image, which is v2 image, and we'll be selecting it. And in the advanced options, similarly, we'll be selecting our network interface. Post that, we'll also copy paste our startup script. Let us check if the startup script has been pasted completely. And then we create the instance template. Please be sure to check if all the configuration is correct in our instance template. Now we can see that the mission type is E2 micro and the image is our custom image with the V2 version. And let us navigate to the next steps. In the next steps, we'll be updating our managed instance group by increasing the number of minimum instances to 4. This would ensure that we have enough instances to uh, show that we are doing a canary deployment. Let us get into the instance group. We'll update the IMDb managed instance group. We can see that the minimum number of instances is 1, which I'll be changing to 4, and the maximum number of instances is 3, which I'll be changing to 8, and we'll update it. Once I update the minimum and maximum instances, the managed instance group will scale the number of instances from 1 to 4, which will be happening anytime now. Now we can see that our managed instance group is increasing the number of VM instances by 4. There are 3 new VM instances that are being created. In the next step, we'll be performing a canary deployment. A canary deployment would allow us to test the new version of our application with a subset of instances, reducing the risk in case of there are any issues with the new deployment. For our canary deployment, let us navigate to the instance group. Here, we'll be updating the VMs and we'll be selecting a second template, which is our IMDb sentiment analysis template v2. In the target, we set it to 25%, which means that out of the 4 instances, which is the minimum, 1 instance would be replaced by the new instance template. Under update configuration, we'll select automatic. This ensures that our updates are instantly applied, and we select only replace. Here we have additional settings such as the max search and maximum available unavailable instances, which we leave it to the default values of 1, which means that when we set the minimum number of instances is 4 for our managed instance group, there is one additional instance that is created, which would be to replace our instance which is running with the previous version of the code. So that this ensures that we have the minimum number of instances with the version of our application running in all time without any downtime. Now we'll update the VMs. We can see that it is mentioned here. One instance will be taken offline at a time, and one instance will be temporarily added to support the update. Here we can see that there are two instances that are being created. One with our MDB sentiment analysis V2, which is a new template. We can see that our new template has been deployed on one of the instance, and rest of the instances have the same old template, which is the V1 of our application. Now let us check if our new instance has our changes applied. Let us navigate to Postman. Here I have tested the new changes on my local machine. Now I'll be replacing the IP address with the instance IP. The review that I'm sending is the movie was okay, and we'll send the request. We can see that it has the sentiment and the confidence. To demonstrate that only this instance has the updated code, let us request the same to a different IP address with the old template. We can see that it only provides the sentiment and not the confidence. This means that only 25% of the virtual machines in our managed instance group has the new updated version of our service. Let us navigate to the next steps now. Our next step would be to perform testing of our version 2 of our service with a preemptible VM instance. A preemptible VM instance is a cost-effective compute instance that you can use for fault-tolerant and batch workloads. It is offered at a lower price compared to the standard instances, but it can be terminated by GCP at any time if there are resources needed elsewhere. So we'll be creating a new instance in the name IMDb sentiment analysis preemptible. And we'll be selecting our instance mission type as E2 micro. The important aspect here is to note that When we select the E2 micro mission type, we can see the price is around $7.11 a month if it is a standard instance. And we select the spot instant. And we can see that the price has reduced to $3, which is almost the half. And we create the instance. Let us look at the next steps while the instance is being created. We'll be setting up this instance to perform a pytest on our canary deployment, where we'll update the packages on the system, and we'll be setting up a Python virtual environment, and we'll be installing the requirements required for our test code, and we'll be running this test code on this mission, which would basically run pytest to run various test cases on this instance and provide us with a summary of the outcomes. We can see that our preemptible instance is up. Let us SSH into the mission. We'll also copy the required setup commands. We'll copy paste these commands in the setup.sh file and save it. Let us run the sh file. We can see that our dependencies have been installed on the machine. Let us activate the environment, and we'll be creating a Python file, and we'll be pasting our test code here. In the test code, we'll be making one important change, which is the instance of our, IP address of our canary instance, which we can copy from our managed instance group. Let us navigate to instance groups. Here, let us copy this IP address, which is mapped to the V2 service, and we'll be pasting it here. And we'll save the code. Now we'll be performing a pytest -s test canary.py. We can see that all the test cases have run successfully, and we can also see other metrics as the median response time, minimum response time, and the average response time. Everything looks good, and all the test cases have passed. This means that our canary deployment is successful and we can roll out these updates to all the instances in our managed instance group, which would be the next step to roll out our updates to all the instances in our managed instance group. For which, let us navigate to the managed instance group. We'll be updating the VMs. Now, we'll make an important change wherein we'll delete our previous template, and the only template that we would have is a V2 template. In the update configuration, it would be set to automatic. Let us update the VMs now. We can see that one more instance of our managed instance group has been updated with our V2 template. So this update is rolled out one instance at a time, ensuring that there are minimum number of instances that could serve the load. This would ensure that there is zero runtime. We can see the surge to 5 instances as we configured, and eventually all these instances would get updated to the V2 service of the code. Let us wait to see the update happening. Now we can see that all the instances have been replaced with the new version of our service, and the final instance is being deleted. And we can see there are 4 instances with the V2 version of the code deployed. With this, we conclude the lab. Stay tuned for our upcoming labs. Thank you.